Well, a vaccine production plant in Montreal promising to onshore manufacturing during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic is still sitting idle. First announced in 2020, the Biologics Manufacturing Center was built in less than 1 year thanks to nearly $130 million of investment from the federal government. Now, over 4 years later, 0 vaccines have been produced at the plant, this raising questions over its future. For a closer look, I'm joined from the nation's capital by Rewat Deonandan, epidemiologist at the University of Ottawa. Thanks for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So vaccine production at BMC has missed at least 5 target launch dates. What reasons are they giving for these delays?
It could be a number of things, right? Some combination of bureaucratic bad luck, time for staffing, but most prominently, probably some regulatory delays. So the primary client was supposed to be Novavax. Those are the people who make the non-mRNA COVID vaccine. And Novavax missed some regulatory deadlines, specifically one for late last year. And that left the center sort of flailing for additional clients. So that's the main reason, I think.
And Rewat, some experts out there warning of the likelihood that vaccine production at BMC becoming less certain, like overall, as it sits idle for this long. So even though vaccines aren't being made, Ottawa's still spending $17 million per year to keep the facility maintained. Where's all that money going?
It's a good question. It's going towards staffing and maintaining the facility. It needs to be maintained, right? These are high-tech equipment. It doesn't just sit there. There's an opportunity here, though, right? So they do have a new client, I believe, Aramis, a Canadian company that makes a plant-based flu vaccine. And again, they're flailing for additional clients to fill some commercial gaps. I think the center does serve an important need, though. It's a nonprofit manufacturing center for Canadian needs, specifically for emergency purposes, as opposed to sort of commercial centers like the Sanofi plant in Toronto. A colleague of mine, 2 colleagues, Adam Houston and Jason Nickerson, were arguing in a paper a while back that it should be used to produce biologics for the world, like Ebola vaccines and monoclonal antibodies, and really make an impact that way.
Well, you know, the center says it often, understandably, takes time for new vaccine plants to secure vaccine manufacturers. But is there anything that BMC could be doing to speed up that process, in your opinion?
Well, it could be retooling to make mRNA vaccines. Right now, they're not set up for that, and mRNA is probably the platform for vaccine production of the future, and that might help us get COVID vaccines, seasonal COVID vaccines to Canadians faster. Right now, we're dependent upon foreign distributors for that purpose. And it could, again, expand into other biologics like monoclonal antibodies. It doesn't have to make just vaccines. Any biologics are fair game, probably.
Yeah, well, and you know, you just touched on this a bit, but obviously demand for COVID vaccines has declined since the peak of the pandemic. So if not COVID vaccines, what type of vaccines should BMC be looking to manufacture?
Well, as noted, they are in a relationship with Aramis to make eventually a flu vaccine, a different kind of flu vaccine. They can make the Ebola vaccine. They can make monoclonal antibodies, and that opens up the door to any kind of therapeutic, really. So really, the sky's the limit if they want to retool their facilities. I think antibodies are a good option, and I think maybe contributing to the development of additional flu vaccines is a good option as well.
So obviously there's a lot of shifting political landscape right now, especially south of the border. And you said that the United States' shifting role in global public health can provide the opportunity for Canada to step up. Obviously, a big example of this, President Donald Trump withdrawing the U.S. from the WHO. So what role could facilities like BMC play in this shifting landscape?
Canada has the opportunity to be a vaccine policy leader, not just a manufacturing leader, policy leader. So putting forth which formulations are needed, which new vaccines are needed for a given season and so forth. At a manufacturing level, we have to be less dependent on foreign providers. So again, this facility and additional facilities could help fill that gap and make us less dependent on other countries. As we've seen, they cannot be relied upon given changes in political tack.
Yeah, well, thank you for this insight and your perspective on it. And we should say we requested a statement from the Biologics Manufacturing Center for an update on its operations, but we did not receive a response in time for this segment. Thank you so much for joining us. Rewat Deonandan, an epidemiologist at the University of Ottawa. We appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.